monitoring and managing everything on our side, and Glenn Bambrick will be helping me with the FME stuff. So we're just going to wait a couple more minutes. There's a few more people joining, and we'll get going then. Okay, so we're just going to get going in a second. I suppose just to remind everybody, today's webinar is about using the Eircode, how we can manage Eircode data with FME, and then we'll show you how you can use the Eircodes in G Media at the end of the session. For those who haven't been on our webinars before, I think we have a very good turnout today. You can ask questions by clicking on the side panel there and typing in your question. Amanda will manage all the questions, and at the end of the session we'll go through every question that's been asked and answer them as best we can. All the attendees are in listen-only mode, so we can't hear you, but you can hear us, and the webinar should be about 35-40 minutes today, so thank you for coming. And I'm just waiting to be told it's time to go. It's lashing rain here, isn't it? Yeah. So it's an Irish summer. So we hadn't planned that this webinar would be so close to the launch of the Eircodes. It was kept kind of quiet which week it would be, so it's actually very apt that it's 2 days later. So hopefully everybody has their Eircode. I managed to find mine online, and it was right. So I think that's good. I think there's a lot of, as ever, there's going to be some naysayers, but I think a lot of the data is pretty good. And of course, the Eircodes, it's not that the Eircode is wrong, it's when the Eircode doesn't match, it's proven that the geodirectory doesn't match what you think your address is. So I think there's a little bit of a misnomer about that. Are we good to go? Yeah, I'm getting heads nods here. So yeah, we're going to start the webinar. So for everybody who's just come online, good afternoon and welcome to the IMGS webinar for July. And today we're going to talk about managing and using Eircodes, which are the new postal codes for Irish addresses. With me again today is Amanda Donegan, who's managing the webinar, and Glenn Bambrick, who looks after our FME support. He's going to help me with the FME demo. Okay, so IMGS, who are we? For those who don't know, we deliver innovative spatial solutions for the desktop, web and mobile built on our partner technology. So we've been an Intergraph partner for maybe up to 13 years now, and Intergraph now have a new division which is called Hexagon Geospatial, which focus on the geospatial products, G Media, Eircode Imagine, Apollo, WebMap, and really now and photogrammetry solutions as well. So there's a new division inside Intergraph, and we're delighted to be a distributor for them as well. We're also a partner of Leica, and we provide their asset collection solutions. And of course, I think everybody nearly on the call are FME users, so we're a Safe Software Gold partner and the kind of sole distributor of FME in Ireland. So our solutions are designed to meet the challenges of government, mapping agencies and utility communication customers. And our customers include the two mapping agencies in the north and the south, OSI and Land and Property Services, ESB, Eircode, Northern Ireland Electricity, BT, the Irish Naval Service, and every local authority in the Republic of Ireland. So we've heard a lot of publicity about Eircodes. So what are they? An Eircode is a smart location code for all Irish addresses, and it provides both commercial and residential. And it is for every post box will have an Eircode. It has an Eircode at this stage, and every Eircode does have an XY in both Irish Grid, ITM, and WGS84. So that means you can display the Eircode on your standard, any mapping system you're using. You can then be able to view the Eircode and the XY. The addresses won't change with the Eircode release. The Eircode has been added to the current geodirectory address. Again, as I mentioned, just as we were waiting for the session to start, a lot of people already this week are finding missing are finding their Eircode is not matching their address, but actually it's not the Eircode that's wrong, it's the fact that the address in Ireland, their own address, wasn't mapped properly. And that's actually the issue. So the Eircodes are now helping to identify where these address issues are. And that's another benefit of what they're going to do. And Eircodes will help solve the Irish addressing problems. As everybody knows, we've had a number of issues with with addressing over the years. Firstly, vanity addresses, where people try and create their own addresses, or try and maybe put their address into a nicer area, or what they think is a nicer area. I always tell this story of a guy I knew at college, and when he joined college, he was from the Ballymun Santry area. And when he came to college first, he claimed he was from Santry. When he became a gangster rapper, then switched his address to being Ballymun, and he was able to do this just by the way his address fell. So he was changing his address depending on where he was from. So this is what people do with vanity addresses. They change their address depending on what way they want it to sound or how they want it to be. Again, the other problem we have in Ireland is rural addressing. So we have, like my own, where I grew up, where I was born, with an address called Grey Acre, Dundalk. So that area was a 3 square mile area. So how did you know what house in Grey Acre, Dundalk was my house? And of course, you could have had another Kieran Kirk in that area. So you could have 2 Kieran Kirks, and how do you differentiate them? It could be my son, it could be my father, it could be my brother, could have no relation to me. So it could just be a name issue. So these big rural areas or townlands, they were hard to find the exact location of someone's address. And again, you can see where that can cause problems. If you're from a very simple issue of trying to order a pizza or get your Amazon delivery, how do you get them to come to the right address? Most systems will ask for a postcode, or they'll ask for an exact address. And you'll find in Ireland, up until recently, a lot of delivery services wouldn't deliver outside of large towns because they wanted a house number, they wanted a street, so they could accurately deliver. Also, this brings us on to the bigger issue if you're calling for a blue light service. So if you're calling for an ambulance or fire or police, how do they get to you and respond quickly? With the old addressing, there was no way of knowing where that address in Grey Acre was, what part of the road it was. It could be from 1 mile to the other. Again, I have an example, which was my neighbour's farm. The barn went on fire. This was about 20 years ago. And when the fire service came out, they didn't know where the farm was, and they actually had to stop the truck and look for flames. And that's how they found where the fire was. So again, these kind of issues, and we had issues last year. I think there was a call into the ambulance call centre in the south, down in the south of the country, and a non-national made a call, gave an address, and that townland or whatever it was had an address in both Cork and Kerry, and the ambulance went to the wrong place. Now, luckily, it wasn't a life-threatening issue, that the person had died, and there was nothing they could have done about it. But the ambulance came about 2 or 3 hours late because it went to the wrong location. Again, now with the Eircodes and exact XY addresses, that issue wouldn't happen. You can call out the Eircode and people know exactly where they're going. So how will the Eircode work, or how does the Eircode work now that it's out? There are 2 parts. There is the routing key, which is the first 3 characters, and then there is the unique identifier. So the routing key is the first 3 characters of each Eircode, and these make up, I think they're tied around significant towns. And it's not directly linked to towns, but it is broken up around the country and to any geographic features or geographic polygon. So everyone now will know for their area what their 3 routing code key is, and these are now done for Dublin. Now, the letters do not denote the town, so you don't get a CK one for Cork or anything like that, but there is an exception for Dublin. All of the Dublin routing keys will start with D, just to kind of keep in with the old D11, D16 way as before. The second 4 characters are drawn from a carefully selected set of letters and numbers that identify each individual address. So this is the unique code. It also doesn't use every letter or number in the alphabet and in the 0 to 9 sequence, because some of these code letters and numbers are hard to pick up or hard to differentiate, on a, if we're using an OCR system or character recognition. So for example, L and I and things like this that could easily be mistaken for each other aren't used. So they don't use every letter in the alphabet. They pick the ones out that are very easy to distinguish on a mail system or whatever, and can you pick them. The big thing, and it has raised a bit of contention, is that the addresses won't be in sequence. So if you have two houses currently on the road, it won't be F4E1 then F4E2. This is to ensure long-term, this is the future-proof the solution, so that if someone builds a house in between the two houses, that they don't have to resequence the numbers. So the numbers will be automatically generated. And again, this is probably an Irish solution to an Irish problem. We have ribbon development, we have houses being built out in the country, we don't really stick to villages, so when you do expand, you are going to get houses that are, popping up in between each other over time, and again, the Eircode meets that requirement. As you've probably seen on some of your correspondence, and some people may have received some of the letters this week with the new codes on them, the Eircode should always be presented in uppercase as two parts separated by a space on stationary mail items and computer forms. So if you are putting together a form, you really need now to have a 3-character, a space, and then a 4-character. And this makes it so you can see there the A65 F4E2 should have the space in between and not thrown together into one sentence. This makes it easier to pick up and easier to identify. So if your organization are now signed up to get Eircodes and are getting the data, there are two formats or two products that you can get. The first product is the ECAF, which is the Eircode address file, and that's a simple flat file format, which is ideal for mailing and delivery companies, but doesn't provide an XY. So again, I'm not really going to cover the ECAF much today. We use a bit of it in the FME demo, but from a GO point of view, from a GI point of view, really we're very interested in the ECAD, which is the Eircode address database, and that's a master address database containing complete addresses and Eircode information for over 2 million Irish addresses, and it does include the XYs. The ECAD contains no software. The data within it must be processed before it can be used in an IT system, and it's comprised of a number of database tables across a number of categories. And here is the tables and categories, and the three that I kind of pick out, a lot of these are just the same tables as you had before in GeoDirectory, but the three that I pick out are address point, postal address, and spatial info, because I think these are the tables that we'll use mostly. And the reason being, well, first off, the address point has every unique address within the building, and it links to GeoDirectory. So again, if you have an apartment block, you'll have multiple address points. So for that one building. Then you have your spatial information. So you've got your geographic coordinates in 3 grid formats: Irish grid, ITM, and ETRS 89, which I think is the same as the WG34. And we have our postal address. So this is what we will use for the gazetteer search fields to do a search by street, town, etc. So again, as I mentioned already, the structure is based on the GeoDirectory, so it will be relatively easy to update existing gazetteers and address fields. So the first thing when you get your data is you're going to have to try and load it into your databases, and we have 3 approaches. The first one is to do a match by GeoDirectory IDs. This is the perfect example. If you are currently using GeoDirectory as your address database, so your address database in your systems already has the GeoDirectory ID for every record, then to take the Eircode in and match that up and get the Eircode for every one of those addresses is a relatively simple procedure. So you just need to do a match using the feature merger by GeoDirectory ID, and you can append in the Eircode. What happens though if you haven't GeoDirectory? Now it might be you haven't used it on some of your address databases. So some organizations, they may have GeoDirectory licenses, but they let their address data be captured freehand, so it doesn't actually be structured the same way as the GeoDirectory, or may never have had GeoDirectory but are looking at it now because of the value of Eircode. Then in that case you want to try and do a match by address string. So this way you don't have the GeoDirectory, so you're going to use the address string that's in the postal address field, do a comparison on that, and then use again the feature merger to merge these together. The other way that you could do this is if you have addresses that do have XYs, but you don't have a geodirectory ID or you don't have good enough string content, you could actually do a match by XY. So using the point on area overlay in FME, you could actually then detect which Eircode is for which address. Now, the point on area overlay will use a buffer to figure this out. So you may get hits where you get two addresses, two Eircodes to one address. And you also have to filter out by apartments if you're running apartment blocks. But in most cases, it'll give you the report. And what we've shown now in a second in our demonstration is in FME, you can build the report and show the addresses that match, but also show to the user if you have multiple matches. So if you do have two addresses that have this, that are within two Eircode addresses that are within a buffer of your own source address, then somebody could come in and decide manually which one is correct or tidy it up that way. So we have three ways to update your database. And then, as I said, in FME, there's great tools now, and anybody who's at the FME World Tour in Dublin or Belfast would see the great things in Excel that you can do with FME, particularly with FME 2015 now. You can populate charts and create groups and things like this and build nice reports in Excel. So again, what we're going to show here is we can show how many addresses, there were no address match found, if there was more than one possible address, or if there was more than one possible Eircode. And then you can see which it was coming out of it and review those addresses. And that can all be created in FME. So I'm going to switch machines here and go on to my FME machine. Yep, and now I'm on FME. So we have our Workbench here. Now we're going to make this Workbench available to everybody after the session, so you can download it from our website and use it yourself and change it and do what you need to do with it. But you can see here we were bringing in this first file. This CSV file actually is the ECAP. So it's the file with no, you'll see there's no XY in it. So we're going to bring that data in and run an ID match on it and bring it across with using an attribute, break the attribute out, bring it across and do a match on it, and then merge any records with our address data where the geodirectory ID matches up. And again, for existing geodirectory data, we can do that as well. So we bring the existing data in, match the two of them up, and then you can see here on the feature merger, we have the requested data coming in, we have the merged data, and then the not merged going out. So the merged data goes out to our Eircode ID match, and you can see we've created an inspector, so we'll be able to see this data at the end in its own little window, so we can check it. And if the data is not merged, we can go down here and we can see we put it out to an inspector in its own table that it is not matched, and we give it a name. So I can click on that, and you can see there's the transformer name and what we're putting it out to. So just for doing the simple matching, FME is very useful. You can just take the IDs, then use the feature merger, and then spit the data out and see how they go out. So you have, and also, good thing with FME, I think it's since 2014, you can see once you've run the script, it'll then put out the numbers of records that have popped out, and you can see them, and they're going out into the database. So we're putting them out into our inspector so we can see them, and then we're putting them out into our table as well, into an output so we can see them there as well, and create a file. Okay. We also then, let's zoom out a bit here. So the next one we want to be able to do is do a string match. So on the string matching, again, we bring in the postal data, we match that up, and again, we can use the feature merger to take the text in from the two files, bring them in, and then if the string matches, spit it out to the string match, and if there's no string match, you can throw it out. And you can see in this case, when you're doing the string matching, you're not going to get as good a hits as you will with an ID match. So we're now down to 100 or 200 records left. Now, one thing we're doing here is we're using just a pure string match There is actually tools in FME that we haven't actually used here, but for doing phonetics and fuzzy string matching. So if there's kind of mistakes or spelling mistakes in the words, that it'll pick it up and actually match them for you. So there are other alternatives than using the feature merger, and they're another way to get the match data. And again, we're going to put that out to a file, but we're also going to drop it into a visualizer and an inspector, and we'll have our string match table and our string no match table. Then the next one is to do a geometry match. So we take in our data, we run our geometry, and then what we're doing is our point on an overlay parameter. So again, we're doing a point on the area, doing the overlay, and again you can set the parameters to it, and we've also got some published parameters. So you can see here we have a buffer tolerance, and in there it's currently set to 2, so you can set it as high or as low as you want and run the query that way. So what we're actually now going to do is take the XYs, match them up, and then run the filter. And you can see here on our test filter, we have, well, it's a more than one match, more than one, or no match, and we can then fire them out to the database. And again, we've created the geometry match here, the Eircode match, and the no match. Okay, and we can then spit that data out and put it out. And finally, we have our error log. So this is the Excel sheet that we were talking about. So being able to create this Excel sheet, put the values in it, and then you can see in there, you can set what values you have, what you want to put out, how you want to format them, and spit them into the report. So that report is there as well, and you can see how you set it up. So that's our error log, and as you can see, as we're bringing the data out here, we're taking the counts of the records, we're putting a timestamp on them, and then we're putting them out into the error log. So all the records that don't match or catch all, we then split them out. So let me fire that up. So in one Workbench, and again we're going to make this available, you can then take your data in, match it against, if you have existing geodirectory records, great. You know, it's just going to be ID against ID. If you don't have geodirectory, we can try and do a string comparison. If you don't have the strings, but you have the XY, you can do an XY comparison, and then you come up with a new database, and hopefully a lot of your addresses will then be populated with the Eircode. And again, then it comes down to how good your original addressing was. And of course, this then gives you the ability to correct this, and that people, either through a web portal or a mobile client or whatever, again, we've options we can provide there, where you can see the where you can actually see the get them to correct their own Eircodes. And that's a great thing. Everyone's going to know their Eircode in a few weeks. They'll be able to, whenever they're applying for something, you can check what their Eircode is and correct it, or if they're applying for a service, particularly if you're like a telecom or whatever. You know, if you're looking for broadband, you're going to give people your Eircodes if it helps get you your service quicker. So you can see there's the addresses. We only had a sample set of data that we put out for the country as a small enough record. But I can also look at the table view in the inspector, and now you can see all those tabs that we were creating. So we have the buffer with the 2 meter existing address. So these are the records that I created using the buffer. Here's the addresses that we matched by ID. So you can see a lot of addresses, and you can see a lot of fields here that don't get used in geodirectory. But you can see we made the match. And then if we didn't get no matches, the records come out as well, and you get the Eircode. Whoa, it's all going so well. Okay, so you can see there before the crash, how we split the data out. Let me just try that again so we can come back to it. In the meantime, I'll open up the error log file. We shouldn't open it at the same time, so I'll throw it in. I'll break that as well. So you can see in here now, this is the file that's split out. You can see the records that didn't come out. We can see the coloring, and it's all created through FME. Just by using an Excel template, we're able to spit the information out and see what we're doing and get the error log. And then you can check through the data, so we can see there's no address match, there's more than one, all the information is wrote out there, the tolerance is used. So again, and this is like we do a lot of data migration for customers. This kind of process of checking data, writing out an Excel sheet, it's a great way for validating how your migration is going. There could be data that's not working properly or whatever. It is a very useful script to be able to do to create these Excel sheets as part of any FME translation, because of course all you got to do then is just check your Excel sheet and you can see if anything went wrong with the spreadsheet. As long as you make sure you put out meaningful error messages that tell you what happened. And again, if I go back to the inspector, it showed it did come back. Let it fire up. And we go across here, we should have our Eircode in here. Again, we use the put together data. Where's it gone? Eircode ID match, we're in this one. So there's the Eircode. Now again, we were for this we just because we didn't these demos were set up before the Eircodes were released. We actually used made up Eircodes because they weren't published till this week. But the same principle, we just had to put out one code against them all. And you can see the string match data and see how we did that as well. And you can go across here and see all the information is coming out. And if there's more than one Eircode match, you can see that information as well. Okay, so that's one thing there is an online service for trying to correct your address. It's coming with the auto address package. We are in discussions around integrating that with FME so that you can have a fourth transformer in there. So if all fails and you need to call this web service, that we'll try and call it and it'll give you your address back as well. So it's an online geocoding service that's been provided as well. I think there is a slight charge to it, but you're allowed to do so many. So again, tying into this process could help you fix those addresses that you just can't get a hit for. And hopefully we'll have more of that later in the month, and we'll let you know when it comes out. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to my other machine. Yep. And back on my screen. Yep. Okay. So that was FME. And just really, I'm going to very quickly, a few more minutes to go, I'm going to talk about, just show you how you could, once you have your data in a GIS database, how you can actually work with the Eircodes. And it has I spelled Eircode properly on this demo. It's not an Eircode, it's an Eircode. So you really just have to treat the Eircode as any attribute. So you can do an attribute query using the XY data. You can build spatial queries as before, and Eircode haven't issued boundaries to go along with the routing keys. But you can infer them yourself by building a buffer zone. And in GMedia, we have a lovely simple search tool that allows you to build quick searches. And I'll show you in a second how you can do it. Just have it on your system that you have this constantly open, that you can just type in an Eircode and map straight to it. Or if you are wanting to look at all addresses in a code area, you just type in the routing code and you'll see it. So let me just jump out into GMedia. This is my GMedia machine, so I don't have to switch. So I have, again, this is just sample data. I have some Eircodes that I've pre-populated myself in the Westmead area. If I click on the address, what we just did was we just took the spatial info table and we joined up the Eircode with it. So not the full translation that you saw there, but you can see we have our Eircode down here. Now again, that A65 that is not a real code. This was done just before. Again, we were planning this webinar before the full release, so it's just a made-up code, but it follows the same format. So the first thing I can do is I can do an attribute query. So in GMedia, an attribute query is pretty simple. You can go in, pick your Eircode spatial info data, write a filter, and I can say, right, Eircode equals, and I can put in an exact value. So you can do show values. It is text, so I can pick one, hit the OK button, and for this query, and then I can display that in the data window or in the map window. I'm going to show it in the data window in GMedia and hit OK. And there we have our address. So, okay, bog standard enough stuff. but just shows with the Eircode you can actually do this. But the nice thing in GMedia is being able to do spatial queries. So again, I have my Westmead Eircode feature there. So I can have a query done of all the Eircodes in Westmead that I had on this sample set. So I can do to find for these Eircodes, find the counties that they're entirely contained by, and I can run that in the data window or in the map window. I'll do both. Hit OK, and again I can see all the addresses that are in the counties query, and which counties. Oh yeah, I should have filtered the query. So again, if I want to go back and change the query, I can do a spatial query. And actually what I should do is say find me all, just to check are all my addresses in Westmead. And they should be. Hit OK. Display them in the map window. Make it nice and big to see. Yep. And hit 7. OK. Okay, and I can display them, and we now see our addresses are here on the map for Westmead. So you can do your space queries. Again, really this is all basic, stuff, but it does just show you there's nothing to be afraid of with the Eircodes. They're just an extra code. They're an XY. They're like any other point feature. And again, the nice thing in GMedia is the search tool. So I've set up a couple of searches here. So we have our Eircode search, which is just where you type in an exact Eircode and you can map to it. So if I bring up the searches bar, sorry, hit the wrong button, hit the searches bar down here in GMedia, where's it gone? There it is. So you can have this bar open the whole time, so I can just do an Eircode search, so I can type in here an exact search, hit search, and it'll map to it, and you can see it's now green on the map. Or I could actually do a routing search. So if you wanted to go through all the routing codes, again, we have a routing key search. Type in 865, and now what it says is there's 65 routing code keys in the map. And as I move around the screen here, you can see the green dot in the center over alone. I can move them around, the green dot's moving with it. So again, very easy to set up these kind of searches. You can still use your gazetteer search, so I could have put in a street name and still get the Eircode, or I can do analysis of the street and then gazetteer, same as before. Very easy to append the Eircode to any searches you have already, because it's just an extra text value. So this is, I think, is the big value of this, of way the Eircode has been implemented. If you are using GeoDirectory, if you have address databases, you don't have to do a big migration. It's just a case of setting up some cleansing and matching, and you can append your Eircodes into the existing data pretty easily. Okay, so the Eircode benefits are there's the ability to route the exact XY and make the use of power of GIS. So again, improved blue light responses, better utility and telecommunications service vision, accurate fault managing, be able to route applications, distance to duct, distance to pipe, distance to cable. And of course, if you know where you're going and you're sending people out, it's going to have the better decreased delivery costs. And then we will see the Garmin and the Google Maps and all these guys will pick up on the Eircodes eventually, and they'll become second nature on these systems. Just enter in your Eircode and you'll be routed exactly to where you want to go. As I said already, the Eircode to me is going to be relatively easy to implement. You don't need to change your address database, especially if the addresses are based on GeoDirectory. You can use spatial tools to match addresses that aren't based on GeoDirectory, like we're showing you today, or the customer can supply the Eircode and self-correct. And the fourth one, which I've got to put in here, is there is an online service at the auto address through Eircode site where you can submit an address up and it'll do the matching using their matching tools. And we're looking at integrating that with FME. Okay, so hopefully you can stay connected with us. So we have our LinkedIn site, we have our website. Actually, I don't have it on the slide, but we do have a blog site. You link it from imgs.ie in the blog, and actually this week, Kira Betty, who actually you may have realised, that Workbench and FME is not mine. I get caught out. But Kira is currently on maternity leave, but she has wrote before she left. She wrote the blog, and that blog is online. So it explains everything I've shown you today on the FME side. You can go online, check the blog, and then you can download the workbenches and use them yourselves. This webinar will be online for anybody who wants to look at it afterwards and see it. As are a lot of other webinars. There's a good few up there now. And one of the most popular ones was Kira's FME top tips. I think it was last month or the month before, and that's up there. So if you're starting FME and want to look at the top kind of workbenches or transformers to use, they're up there, and it's a really useful way to get started. Some upcoming events. Oh yeah, are we in webinar next month? We have a webinar. We don't know what it is yet, but we will announce it. We'll have one next month in August. We have our upcoming events. So our geospatial user group, Hexagon Geospatial User Group, will be on the 22nd and 24th September in Dublin and Belfast. There are some really innovative stuff coming down the line. I really encourage you to come along. It's a nice day. You'll meet your peers, have a nice lunch, and see some really cool technology, and hopefully we can have a chat and help you see where things are going in the spatial market. GIS Ireland has been announced since we were last talking. It's going to be Friday the 2nd of October. Moving out to Balls Bridge this year to the Doubletree and at Hilton Hotel. Again, IMGS are can't remember, gold sponsors of Eircode, so we'll have a stand, and hopefully we've submitted a few papers for presentations as well. And then we'll be speaking at the Geodata in Belfast, and also have a stand up there for our northern customers. So hopefully we'll see you at one of these events in the autumn. That's me talking for 35 minutes, 40 minutes nearly got. So I just have to see if we have any questions from Amanda. No questions, so it was really so clear. Yeah, oh, that's okay. So as we have no questions, nothing else coming in? No, that's great. What we'll do is we'll sign off, and thank you for coming. You can then, if you want to see the webinar back, it'll be probably be up online by tomorrow. We will issue the workbenches, so if you need any, if you want to look at them and use them in FME, if you have any questions, please do give us a shout. If you are looking at implementing Eircode and want to help with us or need some information on it, you know, we're here to help on how you can integrate it with your GIS systems. So Glenn was very quiet, but his support was really great. And Amanda as ever for organising and managing these webinars. So thanks for your time today. I'll say goodbye. Bye folks, and bye from Amanda. And I hope you have a good day, and I hope the weather picks up a wee bit. Thanks. Bye.